Hi, I'm Mark. I'm the Kitchen Pro. Today I'm going to be spraying texture on drywall. If you see, I've got a patch job around the door here. I'm actually adding a door jamb. So I had to patch all the way around the doorway to fill back the drywall. So I've done the initial patching at this point. And I'm all masked off, have all plastic up things I want to protect, not let it get sprayed upon. So I'm virtually ready to spray. So I wanted to go over a couple of things. I have a basic spray gun that I actually got from through Home Depot. It's a pretty simple gun. They make nicer ones, but this one's nice and small, and so the hopper on it is not as big as some of them, which makes it a little easier to maneuver around. And I typically just do smaller jobs. This little room, I'm going to do the whole ceiling and then the patching around the door. So this is actually the little texture gun I get. There's a dial on the front. The size of the holes will give you different textures. And for this knockdown texture, it's a fairly heavy texture. I'm going to use a number 3 hole on it and run about 40 pounds of pressure. What I found on this is that the more pressure, the finer the mist or finer the spray comes out of the gun, along with what hole you use. And also too, with the handle, with the button here, as you push it more, it allows more air to go through too, and that will vary the texture amount. As the pressure goes down, then it shoots out bigger blobs. So it depends on what you're looking for. So I've mixed up the drywall mud. Actually, I'm using topping for this. I used all-purpose mud too, but I'm using topping, and I thinned it down quite a little bit. And what I found, and I have what they call a potato masher. Looks like a big potato masher for mixing drywall mud. And so what I found for me is that if I can get it to where when I mix it up, if I pull it up and you can see the bars between there, then that tells me it's thin enough. If you pull it out of the mud and it's still too thick to go through the bars, then it's too thick. So see, it's just barely going through the bars, so that tells me that it's about the right consistency. That's one of the big tricks, is get the consistency down. A couple more things too. You really need a lot of light. I have this LED light. This LED light, it works really good. And it's kind of a harsh light, but it's really good because it shows all the flaws. When you're really doing something where you want it to look good, you really want to see everything, and then hopefully in natural light it will look won't bring out the details. In fact, this light, if you have a girlfriend or wife and you really don't like her, take a picture with her in that light and she'll hate your guts. Yeah, so anyway, it's not very flattering. So what I also do too, as I spray, I have another secondary light that I use by hand, and as I spray, after I've sprayed the wall, then I come back and actually use it for cross light, and that shows me the texture a lot. So it makes it easier to see the texture a lot better. So that's that little trick I use. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, another thing, in another video I showed this. Actually, I was working on some wood, but I call this water sanding. And what I do if I really want to do a good job, especially out here where it's being seen more, is after I patch the drywall and I sand it down as best I can, then right where the drywall patching stops, that edge, if you don't do it just right, it will show through the texture. So what I do is I get a wet sponge and what I call wet sand it. And what that does is it allows the texture to come through it and softens that edge. And so I do that all the way around. I've already done all that, so that's all ready to go. So that wet sanding is really good. And it's also too great for if you have a small hole, maybe up to a 1/4 inch size. you fill it full of drywall mud. You could even let it dry, come back and wet sand it, and you could do a really good job of patching, for smaller holes. So I think that's it. I think we're ready to go. I'll get into the spraying of it in a few minutes. Okay, I'm ready to spray texture now. I put a little mud in the hopper, tried spraying it. The consistency is good. So one of the things I want to show, secondary thing is with this type of a drywall texture, they call it a knockdown. It's a fairly heavy texture. As it dries, you have to have kind of a good feel for this, but as it dries, then what you do is you take a drywall knife like this and lay it down, they call it. And what that does is it hits the highlights and flattens out the highlights. So there's some flat spots and then there's the small texture below that. This room in here, I'm going to do the whole ceiling, which is all raw drywall. So this should be pretty easy. I should be able to use a knife to do the lay down on it. But the trick is when you have a patch like this, where there's the patch here and there's the existing drywall that's been painted. So as I spray the texture on this, with the patch here, this is going to suck in the moisture from the texturing. So in other words, this is going to dry really fast and this is going to dry really slow. So if I were to try and do a knockdown with that, then this would be, that would be, since it's so wet, it would be just a huge flat spot, and this would be just minorly flat. So it's really, really hard to do the knockdown with a mix of patch and old drywall. So what I found for myself is I'm going to actually spray this whole wall out. And so what I'm going to do is, after I spray it, and I let it dry, pretty much totally, it should be dry. Then I come back with 1 or 2 sanding pads with a 120 grit sandpaper on it. And lightly, I repeat, lightly, just kind of daintily sand it. And that will knock down the highlights. And then what I do is, once again, I'll take the light and do the side lights and look at the texture as I'm sanding it to make sure I don't go too far. So we're ready to do the texture job. I'm just about ready. I got everything all set up. And what? Because I have cold knees. Yeah, I have cold knees, so that's why I wear those. So anyway, so we're ready to start it all here. So once again, I have the compressor set at about 40 pounds. The hole on this is the number 3 hole. So I usually start at the top. It's an older compressor, so it takes a while to, it doesn't quite keep up with it, so I have to let it run to catch up again. But that's basically the spraying too. Then once again, I go back over my side light and take a look at my texture. Well, I have to say it does look fabulous, of course. Kitchen pro job. So that's about it. So I'll continue working and I'll show you the finished job afterwards. Thank you.